Alright, so today we're going to be doing a 2-day lesson on basically linear system word problems. But before we get too far into the word problems, we're going to go ahead and go over the warm-up. If you haven't done it already, go ahead, pause the video, try the warm-up, and then turn it back on and I'll go over all of them. So for the first one, I'm going to use the elimination method, because my x's and y's are already on the same side of the equal sign. So, let's see if I can figure out how to write. 12x plus negative 16 equals 8. And I'm going to line up the 3x plus negative 4y equaling 2. I need to get one of the variables to cancel, and in order to do that, I'm going to multiply the second equation, both sides of that second equation through by a negative 4. By doing that, that's going to allow my x's to cancel out. So I have 12x plus negative 16 equaling 8. And I have negative 12x plus positive 16, that should be a 16y, plus positive 16y equaling negative 8. Hopefully what you notice is that both my variables cancel out, as does my constant on the right-hand side of the equal sign. This ends up leaving me with 0 equaling 0. That is a true statement, so my answer is infinitely many solutions. Problem 2, I'm going to solve using substitution because it's already set up y equals. So in the second problem, everywhere I see y, I'm going to plug in the problem 2 plus negative 3x. So 6x plus 2. Take the y out and plug in 2 minus 3x. And that needs to equal 7. So 6x plus 4 plus negative 6x is going to equal 7. Combine my like terms. And by doing that, that actually goes away and gives me 0. So 0 plus 4 needs to equal 7. 4 does not equal 7. So my answer for this case is actually no solution. Number 3, I'm going to set up using elimination again. So 4x plus negative 2y equals 2. And 2x plus negative 1y equals 1. Bottom equation, I'm going to multiply through by negative 2 in order to get everything to cancel. Top equation stays the same. Bottom equation becomes negative 4x plus 2y equaling negative 2. Everything cancels again, and I get 0 equaling 0. So infinitely many solutions for number 3. If you have any questions on the warm-up, please come see me. That's what we did in our previous lesson. This is the warm-up for the second day. I'm going to go ahead and do it now just so it's done. So you have 3 things you're supposed to do. Underline the important info, determine what x and y will represent, and then write your 2 equations. So twice as many cats and dogs, that's important. Total of 30 cats and dogs. How many dogs did she examine? How many cats did she examine? So I've underlined my important information. I need to figure out what x and y are going to represent. Well, the problem's talking a lot about cats and dogs, so my guess is one of them needs to be cats, one of them needs to be dogs. Doesn't matter which one's which. I'm going to make x dogs, and I'm going to make y cats. We also know that she added a total of 30 cats and dogs together. So x plus y needs to be able to give me my total of 30. That's one of my 2 equations. The second piece of information that I'm told is twice as many cats as dogs. So 2 times however many dogs there would should give me my total of cats, which is y. Twice as many dogs as cats. And that's all the warm-up was asking you to do. Underline, identify, set up your two equations. So we're going to be looking at real-world problems. And we pretty much want to follow those steps that were laid out for us. Underline the important information, figure out what x and y are, set up the equations, solve, and label. So, let's go through and underline the important information. They take a day-long tubing trip down a river, $15 to rent a tube for a person, $7.50 for a cooler tube. Club members spent a total of $360 and they rented a total of 26 tubes. Those 4 things that I underlined, that's all that I need. I don't need any other information. Now the last sentence, I'm going to change the color. It says how many of each type do they represent? When it's asking you in that last question what you're looking for, that's usually a good clue as to what x and y are supposed to be, because we're typically supposed to be looking for x and y. So they want to know how many of each type. Well, we have 2 types. We have the person tube and we have the cooler tube. And again, it doesn't matter which one's which, just pick one for x and one for y. Total of 26 tubes. So many people tubes plus so many cooler tubes needs to give me my total of 26. My second equation is going to talk money. $15 for however many people tubes I buy, plus $7.50 for however many cooler tubes I rent, needs to get me my total of $360. At this point, I've underlined, I've identified, and I've set up. The last 2 things to do are to solve and label. I'm going to solve this one using the substitution method. I'm going to rewrite this top equation and make it y equals negative 1x plus 26. I moved the positive 1x to the other side by adding negative 1x. Plugging that into the problem, I get 15x plus 7.5 times negative 1x plus 26 equaling 360. 15x plus 7.5 negative 7.5x plus 195 can give me 360. Combine my like terms. 7.5x plus 195 equals 360. Add negative 195 to each side. $7.5x equals 165. Divided by 7.5, divided by 7.5. X equals 22 people. It's very hard to write in this thing. People tubes. So now that I know that X is 22 people tubes, I should be able to figure out Y relatively easily. 22 goes into my top problem, so 22 plus Y equals 26. Subtract 22 from each side, and I get Y equaling 4 cooler tubes. I would strongly recommend that you check your answer, but I am not going to force you to check your answer. At this point, these choices are being left up to you. Second problem to look at. Again, very similar. 5 steps. Underline, identify, set up, solve, label. So we're going to start with underlining. Chelsea charges $2 per day plus a sign-up fee. Zach charges a flat rate of $3 per day. After how many days do Chelsea and Zach earn the same amount for dog sitting? And what is that amount? In this case, X is going to be our number of days, and Y is going to be our amount, because that's what we're looking for. And we have two equations in this case. We have an equation for Chelsea, and we have an equation for Zach. Chelsea says that she charges $2 per day. We don't know what day is, so day is X. Plus she charges a flat sign-up fee of $3, and that's going to equal her total amount. Zach, on the other hand, says that he is just $3 per day, and that gives him his total. So now I have my two equations. I'm going to solve this using substitution, but you could use elimination if you would like. So 2x plus 3 equals, now instead of y, I'm going to plug in my 3x. So now I'm going to get my variables on the same side of the equation. Don't want to do that. So I'm going to add negative 2x to each side. So I end up with 3 equaling 1x, divide by 1, divide by 1. X equals 3. X was our number of days, so 3 days. Now I need to find y. It's going to be easier to use Zach's equation to find y. 3 times 3 equals y. 9 equals y. That was an amount, so $9. It is helpful to remember that if you're talking about money, money is typically your y variable, if that helps at all. This is where we would typically start day 2, and what I would have you do on the second day is I would have you try problems 3 and 4 on your own, see what you can come up with, and then we would go ahead and go over them. So pause the video, try problem number 3. I'm going to come back on and go over it. Then we'll flip to 4 and follow the same process again. So now that you've had a chance to try number 3, I'm going to work it all out for you. Remember that our steps are to underline, identify, set up, solve, and label. So Maria works for Gardner after school. Each week she is paid an hourly rate and a fixed amount. During the first week she worked 10 hours and was paid $115. Second week, 5 hours, was paid $65. We want her hourly rate of pay and we want the fixed amount. So the hourly rate of pay and our fixed amount are going to be X and Y. If you remember from the last problem, I said that Y is typically always your money. So that's going to be our amount or our total. And Y is going to be our hourly rate. Still money, but money that can change based on how many hours she worked. So we're going to have two equations. One for her first week of work and one for her second week of work. And we're told that her total is her hourly rate plus her fixed amount. So that's our fixed amount. So for week 1, she worked 10 hours and was paid a total of $115. 10 hours times however much she gets paid an hour plus her fixed rate. Second week she was paid $65. She worked 5 hours and again had her fixed rate. I'm going to use substitution in this one. I'm going to multiply everything in the second equation through by a -1. It's going to make that a -1y, a -5, and a -65. My y's cancel. I get 5x equaling 50, divide by 5, divide by 5, and x equals $10 per hour. Now I need to find her hourly rate. So I'm going to take the 65 equaling -5 times 10, which we know now, plus y. So 65 equals 50 plus y. Add -50 to each side. 15 equals y. Again, that's money, and that's our fixed amount. So that's that problem. Number 4, talking about the stables and the horses. So inside the stable, we only have horses and people. I'm underlining. The number of horses and people combined is 9. A boy added the legs of all the horses and the legs of all the people and got 30 legs total. How many horses? How many people? So I've underlined. Now I'm going to identify. X is going to be horses. Y is going to be people. Well, we know that the number of horses and people combined is 9. So X plus Y needs to give me 9. I also know that the legs of the horses and the legs of the people is going to give me 30 legs total. Well, horses have 4 legs times the number of horses, plus people have 2 legs times the number of people, should give me my 30 total. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to solve this one using elimination as well. I'm going to multiply this entire top equation through by -4. That gives me -4x plus -4y equaling -36. My bottom equation stays the same. And I end up with -2y equaling -6. I divide each side by -2. And I get y equal 3. Y, remember, is people. So now that I know that y is 3, number of horses plus 3 people, which we now know needs to give me a total of 9. You might be able to do this one in your head, but it's not going to hurt to see the work. You get x equaling 6 horses. I underlined, I identified, so underline, identified, I set up, I solved, and I labeled. If you follow those 5 steps, it shouldn't go too bad on the homework. Homework this evening is a worksheet. It is 6 problems. Try them, see how it goes. Use your notes. There's example problems of each of the types that you have in the homework tonight. But again, if you follow those 5 steps, identify, underline, identify, set up, solve, and label, it should go pretty smoothly.